Hello, my friends. So the Kansas kid, that chip there, has a channel, and he did a video about loser silver to stack. And Addicted to Minis did a response video, or maybe he was first. I don't know which one was first, but they're talking about stuff to stack that's not good because right now the refineries are not taking 90% U.S. They're not taking stuff like this, which is a Cinco Peso, and it's 720 or 72%. So this is not really a great choice. Now, another thing that's not a very good choice, copper. Buying a copper round is really kind of silly. I really only bought this because I like the way the Walking Liberty looks in copper. Certainly wouldn't buy a whole bunch of them. Now, what is good is what you see here. 100-gram 3/9 fine, 5 ounces 3/9 fine, and 4 different 1-ounce bars. These are all fine for stacking because the refiner will buy these. They will buy any of these. What they don't want to buy, though, is lower percentage stuff like this. So let's start talking about other bad things you can stack, which was probably not a great choice. What we have here is a whole tube. Well, this is a squared off tube of 40% Kennedy's. Not a very good thing to stack because the refiner doesn't want this. And there was an event here in town recently where people were buying stuff, collectibles, silver coins, anything. And he told me that this is a less desirable thing because I said I had some tubes of them and asked him what he would pay. And he said maybe $2 or $3 a piece. Melt on these is nearly $7. So, in theory, 20 of them should be $140 at recent prices, give or take. But it's not because a lot of people don't want to buy them. There's another row of them, which got most of these for about $2 several years ago. But I'm not done because there's a 66. I have another one. And another row, that's a 68. So I'm sitting here on a bunch of silver. In theory, all this should be worth, what did I say, 140 a tube? Hello, Littlefoot. All this in theory should be worth about $560. Getting someone to pay you full melt for a 40% Kennedy is pretty tough. Let's talk about another thing that's not a great thing to stack. These are U.S. war nickels. They're 35%. I found all these in my change over the years, so I don't have any real money in this, just a nickel a piece. But the refinery probably isn't going to buy these. They want stuff that's easy to refine, stuff they don't have to do much to. Now, this partially damaged, messed up silver bar is fine. Hello, Littlefoot. Thanks for congratulating me on the fact I've hit 1 million views on my channel. But that's 3/9 fine silver. I mean, it's not a full ounce, but they will definitely buy that. Now, even when you do buy war nickels, oftentimes you can get them pretty cheap. These are all similar to the ones I found in my change, several of them. The way you know it's a war nickel is usually if it's been in circulation much. It'll be dark like this, but it'll have the big mint mark over the dome. It's the only time they ever did that. That's 35% silver, and at the time I bought that, there's 15 in here, and it cost me 75 cents each, $11.25. Refinery won't buy them. Now, I'm not saying you can't sell this stuff. And so here's 11 in this, 65 cents a piece, $7.15 price. This one has a really big hole drilled in it. 35% silver is not a very good idea to be stacking. Some things that are okay, things like this, 1 ounce fine, 3/9 fine silver. This, the refiner would buy in an instant, along with all these other 3/9 fines. They'd buy the Buffaloes. They would buy this one, which is a Christmas, it's a steam train from Silvertown. I thought I had the Christmas one out. They'll buy stuff like that, and they'll buy stuff like this. This is all good stuff to stack. Now let's get to a sore topic. Since they're not buying anything, the refiners, but 3/9's fine. You have a roll of dimes like this. These are all silver. You can see Roosevelt there, and on the bottom that's a Mercury dime. Worth a little over $3 a piece by recent prices, but will anybody buy it? What's worse? It gets worse. Another whole tube. This, I think, is exactly 50 of them. And this is a quarter tube, so it'll hold more than 50 easily. Let's talk about another favorite thing that some people will stack. That's not a great idea. This is a loser pile of silver. It's really not worth much. By melt, they're worth a couple of dollars a piece. But if you took this many of them to a coin dealer and he wanted to buy them, he'd probably give you less than $1 a piece. You won't likely get a very good price for them. Much as I like them, just because of the design, they're really not the best thing to stack. Another thing that isn't that great to stack, U.S. silver dollars. These are all Peace dollars and Morgan dollars. And this, I think this is actually 20 in the tube right now, and at recent prices to buy these, be hard pressed to want to go buy more of them at that price. Let's talk about a couple other things. Other random U.S. junk silver. The refiner does not want this. Does not want that at all. They want 3/9's fine. Another thing they don't want, getting back to copper, is these U.S. cents that are worth over 3 cents a piece by their weight in copper. But no one's going to pay you that much for them. So this jar is kind of almost like a fool's errand. So am I doing something dumb? Well, unless the refiners start changing their minds and start buying 90%, like these dimes, they start buying that again, well then I'm good. Especially if the refiner will give you a near melt for them. I'll be real good. Now, this particular one, it's a toned up, but is a proof. It's a silver proof coin that I got at one point. There are mercuries in this, but most of the ones on the top. This one's just a regular 64. It's not near as shiny. Have a good look at that. 1964, 90% silver. This one's 1961, and it's a proof. You can kind of see the very shiny part. Unfortunately, that's not a great thing to be stacking. Now, had I known in the past when I was buying all this stuff, that the refiners would reach a point where all they wanted was 3 nines, fine, or like this one, 4 nines. All they want is pure silver, and they don't want to buy any 90% or anything else. No war nickels, no 40% Kennedys like these, and no 90% like these dimes in this tube, which is not quite full. It's a dime tube. There's Roosevelt's in it, and there are several Mercurys in it. Really not sure how many Mercurys. And look at that. There's even a few Barbers in this. 3 of them if they're separated. And then there's quite a few Mercury dimes in it. And then we get to Roosevelt dimes. But if the refiner doesn't want 90% silver, I'm left with the feeling that I would have been better off just buying pure silver. One thing about the dime tube, if you don't get them in right, they do not go in very easily. In fact, I may have to use needle nose pliers to get these unstuck. Maybe. See if we can do anything with it. So maybe there is some regret about buying too much. Well, I'm going to have to pull them out with something. It's not coming out with trying to shake them out. Not exactly sure how I'm going to get them out of there, but I'll figure something out. Now, getting back to the topic. I would have been better off saving money up and buying these one by one when I had enough cash handy to do it. Of course, then again, you always run into the question of, to sell to the refinery, you have to have a lot. Probably way more than you see here. They have a certain amount they want to buy, and if you don't have that much, they're not real willing to buy. I'm gonna see if I can't pull one of them out gently. Needle nose pliers. Well, that did the trick. There. Figured that out. Now, one of them fell on the floor, I believe. Don't see it. But if it's lost, well, in many ways it don't matter, because unfortunately the refiner does not want 90% coins. That's going to bother me because I did drop one and I don't know where it went. Could be almost anywhere. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these back in here one by one. Till I get them all back in the tube. Anyway, it's pretty much covering this topic. 10% Morales pesos, US silver dollars, 90% silver, 40% Kennedys, any other 90% like these dimes, war nickels. None of it's a great buy, and if the refiners decide they don't want to buy it ever again, then what do you do then? Because at that point, the silver stackers are only going to want to buy what the refiner will buy in the future, because they know people who may have a lot more on them will buy and then send the stuff to the refinery as needed. But if you do not have a very large amount of silver to sell in this form, you're kind of stuck. So going forward, I'm going to have to start rethinking things if the refiner says, I don't want to buy. That's a good question. If you have a smelting kit and you know how to refine your silver from 90% down to 3/9 fine, you could melt them. And they've been melted in the past before, so it's like that entire bag could be melted down. It's all 90% silver. And if it was refined down to pure silver, it would probably be that much, maybe a couple 10-ounce bars perhaps. But you do have to think about these things now, since the refiner's like, I don't want to buy 90%. And stacking copper's a tough job. I mean, if you get, this is an 1 AVDP ounce, so you need 16 of this to be 1 pound of copper. Unlike troy ounces, a troy ounce, it only takes 12 to make a pound because they're heavier. If I had my scale handy and this wasn't in this, I could weigh it and tell you how much it weighs. But there is one other way I can tell you. For calculator. So it takes 16 ounces of copper to make 1 pound versus 12. So ,12 ounces is 1 troy pound of silver. So it's 31.1 grams per ounce of silver times 12. 373.2 grams roughly. Divided by 16 means, if I'm doing my math right, this should weigh about 23 and change grams to make 16 to make a pound, that is. Anyway, I gotta look for a dime that I dropped. I'm still even though, because I got this out of a Coinstar, so this 54 dime didn't cost me anything. Along with the 2 or 3 or 4 dimes I found last year and a half that were 90% silver. Well, actually last couple years. But That is the big question. If the refiner won't buy 40% Kennedys, should you buy them yourself, ever? Yeah, but that's the question. If the refiner's saying they don't want to buy 90% silver, they only want to buy 3/9 fine stuff or higher, like this Australian, it's 4/9 fine. So it's purified even more than these that are 3/9 fine. Oh, that says 3/9 fine plus. But yeah, I would have been better off stacking these. Of course, my recommendation, if you're buying bars like this, it's probably about as big as you should buy, because selling silver bars that are 10 ounces or bigger, you're going to have to find, and you have a bunch of them, you have to find somebody that wants to buy a lot. It's better to have the fractional size, the 1 ounce. One coin dealer told me years ago, he said, I don't like to buy 5 ounce ones very much because it's real easy to sell 1 ounce bars. Not as easy to sell 5 or 10 or even bigger, or 100 for that matter. My other coin dealer told me he doesn't really want to buy anything bigger than about 10 ounce bars because he's afraid that someone might be faking and bringing in one that the middle isn't silver. You could have a very thick case of silver around it and enough similar weight type metal in it that would make it weigh 100 ounces, but not be 100 ounces of silver. That's where your ruler comes in too, because I don't think there's too many metals that weigh exactly the same as silver. So if you have like a copper center with very thick piece of silver around it, which is kind of how these things are made. This is only 10% total weight silver, but it's thicker than plating. It's got a piece of metal on the inside that I think consists of 3 different metals. And then it's wrapped in a thick layer of silver, much thicker than plating anyway, and then struck. But these, selling these is probably not going to be easy if you want to. So that's food for thought. Buy the stuff that the coin dealer will buy back. And if the refiner is saying they will not buy 90% silver right now, you're better off with the 3/9 fine stuff. Buffaloes even. You'd have hundreds of buffaloes, and as long as they're 3/9 fine silver, or 4/9 like this one is, the refiner will buy it. And even stuff like this, it's a 1 ounce, 3/9 fine Libertad, the early design. This one's 1984. But that's what the refiners want to buy, pure silver. They don't want to buy 90%. So it's pretty much covered the topic I wanted to cover. And now I'm going to have to go look for a dime that I dropped. So I'm hoping everyone has a good night, and thanks for stopping by. And I hope Addicted to Minis and Loving It and the Kansas Kid get a chance to see this video, because it's really all I got. See you next time.